Right, we're recording. Thank you everyone for joining us. And when I say everyone, I mean Marty and David. Welcome to the BizDevLeaders.com. Well, it used to be a podcast, Marty. I roped you into a podcast. And then we started recording these things. And now we're on Zoom because we're all working from home. So welcome, Marty. Marty, always a pleasure to work with you.
Likewise, Raphi.
And our guest today, David Edwards of Heron Wealth. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good. Good afternoon.
So, David, you are the president of Heron Wealth. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your company and a little bit about current events? We'll get into details later, but just a little bit and a little bit of a background.
Sure. I am the president of a firm that I started 25 years ago as a stock picking firm. In the mid-2000s, we evolved into a wealth management firm, which means that for executive families and rising professionals, we do financial planning, investment management, tax, and estate planning. Anything that our clients touch that involves money, we are there with good advice. 99.9% of the time, I'm like the captain sitting up front in the aircraft, flying across the Atlantic, just looking at the instruments and everything's on auto. Every once in a while, a couple of geese get sucked into the engine, and that creates a situation like this, and that's when I earn my pay.
So, I hate that because there are like geese flying into. I was trying to go for a little bit more of a light, discuss the current situation. But we were talking yesterday in prep for this, and. David, you have an incredible background, but Marty, although David has an incredible background and I have a good background, you've been around for a few more years. We discuss this every time we have a podcast. Marty, you've been around.
Continental Congress, 1776. I was there.
So, Marty, why don't you tell everyone how long you've been around experientially, not necessarily in other words.
I've been around business for about 40 years, and I am the founder of Connectors 360. And what I do, I'm a marketing consultant, and I specialize in branding and messaging.
So Marty, branding, messaging, what is the message that we should all be learning from this crazy Corona, stay at home, stay safe time?
Well, I think the message in general is to search within us to find leadership so that we can actually provide something to ourselves and to the people whom we serve, who are our current clients and also future clients, so that we can actually take this time to do things that we might not ordinarily do. We're unfortunately kind of forced into it, and to use this time to our advantage so that we can really be prepared for a return, a resurgence when the time is right.
Yeah, so David, talking about, I mean, Marty's been around for 40 years. I think you've had your firm for over 25 years, not as long as Marty. Excuse us, Marty, for not being as experienced.
I'm almost as old. I started my career on Wall Street in 1980, so I've been around just about as long.
Almost,
all
right.
But let's take a deep breath and let's take a step back. David, you and I love to ski. And we should be skiing now. We should be spring skiing now. But what the heck?
Yeah, 4 weeks ago, I was in Wyoming. I think you were in Vermont or New England. And I came back on February 29th. And since March 1st, I have not had a day off from work. I have been on the phone 4 to 6 hours a day straight through. It's now April 1st.
Yeah, and I also know, David, you're a big sailor. You've been sailing for many years. What the heck is going on with the sailing industry right now?
So we have a sailboat, and we're looking forward to putting that boat in the water May 1st. But right now, I can't even drive to Rhode Island to take a look at it, and we may have to be practical this year, and that boat may have to sit on the dock, on the hard, as we call it, until July or August, or maybe we wait until 2021. This is a time when you divide your life into things that have to be done and the things that you like to get done. And right now I'm focusing on things that have to get done.
Incredible. Incredible times we're living in, really. So David, we touched upon this just a little bit. You were on Wall Street 20 years ago. I mean, the climate 20 years ago. 1980 was not 20 years ago.
40 years ago.
40 years.
Now I'm aging myself, or I'm losing it, shall we say. But tell us a little bit about how you transitioned from a Wall Street job to running your own firm.
It's simply going where the customers wanted me to go. 25 years ago, I picked stocks for clients because the clients' needs were very simple. They just wanted to have someone who picked 40 or 50 stocks for their portfolio. But what happened over time was that the clients began asking questions that had nothing to do with stocks. They wanted to know about their retirement plan or their kids' college, or whether they could buy a second home, or what to do about their aging parents. And I would first say, well, call your financial planner, call your tax person, call your trust and estate attorney. But it turned out that I was the guy with my hands on their money. They wanted the answer from me. So I evolved my firm. I educated myself to learn much more about the work beyond investment management, which is financial planning, tax planning, estate planning, and behavioral coaching. Behavioral coaching is the art and science of showing the clients that while they have 10,000 choices with their money, only these 10 choices matter. And you know, I'll be upfront. To your listeners, I work with both Raphi and Marty to refine our marketing message. We work with Raphi on digital marketing and SEO to make sure that people can learn about our firm and find the answers they're looking for. And we work with Marty to refine our message, because these days our prospects have ever less time. And so they're looking for shortcuts. And so if you look at our website, we've cut back 90% of the content and only focus on the material that actually matters to the clients. So
yeah, so let me just jump right in there, because Marty, you know, we have talked about marketing and branding and messaging for the last, I would say, year that we've been working together. And the number one rule, the number one Marty rule, is that no one cares about you. Now we are all working from home. It's a crazy climate, crazy economy. Do the 3 rules. First of all, what are the 3 rules of marketing? And do the same 3 rules of marketing apply in this climate and environment?
Yeah, so the 3 rules of marketing are the ones that I've come up with, and I find to be very useful to all businesses, all industries, and frankly, all environments. And so, yes, the first rule of marketing is that nobody cares about you. So that means that no one really wakes up in the morning and says, gee, I need a marketing consultant. That's what I need. They may wake up and say, my sales are not the way I want them to be. So no one really cares about you, even though you may be very credentialed and experienced and accomplished. So the second rule is that they would only remember the problem that you solve. And this is important because people really want to know that you're listening to them and that there's something that a problem that they have that you can actually address. And so they're not really that interested, again, in anything that you might have that goes to your credentials yet. There are times where we will get to talking about your credentials and your processes, your procedures, but they'll only remember the problem that you solve. I have a problem, and that's what people will remember, that you can solve that particular problem. And the third is that they won't do the work to figure it out, which means that if you give people a long list of things about yourself, then they have to sort of sift through it and say, how does this relate to me? Does it relate to me? And people won't do that because, as David says, people, whether they're in, regardless of their industry, they are totally stressed for time and they just don't want to spend any extra effort. So those are
Marty, I mean, I have to throw a wrench into your program or whoever it is. Every day, David, every day people wake up and they're thinking about their money. Certainly they're thinking about their money.
That's their problem.
What's that?
That is their problem.
That they're thinking about money.
That's right.
So it's funny you say that. We're actually bringing in new clients right now. We've added 6 in the last 3 weeks, and some of them were already in the pipeline before the crisis. Some of them jumped to us because they were on our distribution list for some reason or the other. They have another advisor already. They weren't hearing from that other advisor right now, and They said, I want to talk to somebody who's speaking to my immediate needs and concerns.
Right.
So I would say that times are good, clients are fat and happy. They're not thinking about their money. They're thinking about their kids, their job, their workout situation. We think we're going to pick up a lot of new business this year because people took a big hit in the first quarter, and they're suddenly realizing that maybe their current advisor is not the advisor they thought he or she was, and they want to make a change. So actually, for a lot of people right now that are afraid to market and are afraid to extend themselves and are just trying to hide in a bunker somewhere,
Yeah.
I think this is actually a time where you want to do the opposite. If you have a little bit of cash left over, if you've got some cash flow going, if you have any way of promoting yourself and standing aside from the 90% of firms that are hiding right now, you might be able to win.
So we talked a little bit about leadership before, and one of the things, David, I love about your firm is that you are, going back to the sailing example, you are at the head of the ship. You are absolutely weathering the storm, at the helm of the ship. Every analogy and every anecdote that you can talk about sailing, I really appreciate. I think it was 2 Sundays ago, you had a webinar on a Sunday, and I just felt calm. I felt educated and informed, and I really think that you're doing that. So kudos to you.
Yeah, we had never done webinars before, and we've done a couple in the last month, and we've been learning how to do webinars, because it's kind of like when you're coming into LaGuardia during a thunderstorm and the plane is dropping 100 yards at a pop. If the captain just gets on the intercom and says, yeah, I know this sucks right now, but we've got another 5 minutes to go, and then we'll be safely on the ground and you can go about your business. And everybody just leans back in their chair and says, okay, I'm going to make it through. If they don't hear from you, then they start to freak out.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the key pieces in communications is that people respond to and get engaged with information that's not about anybody else except it's pure information. So if you provide selfless information, which is what you, David, have done and are doing now, that's a way to generate real traction in the marketplace, to generate awareness. People will suddenly say, this guy, I know about this guy. He talked to me honestly and directly. He provided me with information. He didn't make false promises or false hopes.
Yeah.
He was on track and was very straightforward and gave me information that I could use and let me make my own decision and come to things on my own. That's the key.
So Marty, let me ask you to that point. We developed this podcast, Vlogcast, website, BizDev Leaders, all about business development. Has the theory and the practice of business development in this climate changed for you at all? Do you think it's changed for the world economy?
I think it's changed, and it's changing in ways that we cannot fathom yet. I think the fundamental rules apply, that people gravitate towards messages and information that is relevant and is not freighted with heavy sales. And that's always appealing. And I think that will remain the same. If one wants to be a leader, and business development, as we define it, is the development of long-term relationships that lead to mutual benefit. It's not sales, although sales is a part of it. It's not marketing, although marketing is a part of it. And networking is also a piece of it. But it's really about, how do we develop long-term relationships so that everybody wins? So there's a win-win all over. And so those kinds of things are, frankly, timeless. And people gravitate to those people who show up as leaders first. And that's the main thing. And then the business development, or the relationship building, follows.
So David, I had been to one of your events last month. It was the sailing event with
Tucker.
Tucker. And it was a great event, and we met some great people, and it was just purely you're a sponsorship of an event. Did you have any events that you had scheduled that were scheduled during this time and had to be canceled? Are you taking a hit?
Yeah, well, we actually had a whole series scheduled for the whole year. We had one event in February that was quite successful. We had another event in March 11th. The turnout was down by 70%. And then our May event is obviously canceled, and we'll have to see about September and October. We just have to be pragmatic about whether it will be safe to host an event for 100 people in this time. But I will say that rather than have me stand up and talk about financial planning, which is unbelievably boring for most people in a cocktail setting, we actually try and find topics that are interesting to a wide audience, bring people together, let them network for 45 minutes or so, have our speakers speak for 30 minutes and then take 15 minutes of questions, and then leave half hour left over for networking. And so what we're trying to do is build an aura goodness around our firm and our people. And then that gives us a natural way to add people to our distribution, so that when they do find they need a new financial advisor, well, they know about us already. It's not like they have to find us the next day, but within 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, they know how to find us.
This is a classic brand building, because you are engaging people in ways that step them through the process, as opposed to, here's a pen, you want to buy it, it's on sale. So this is a way to engage people at their own pace, and then you nurture the relationship over time in whatever form. It could be additional calls, or it could be those conference calls that you set up, or newsletters, or your regular emails. So over time, you'll be able to build that. That's the way that you build a brand.
Absolutely. There are 2,000 other advisors just as talented as me in Manhattan alone. So how do I distinguish myself? It's not going to be based on investments. We're all doing the exact same thing. It has to be some reason to like, know, and trust me before you do business with me.
Exactly. David, I got the email from your marketing campaign or whatever it was, and it was just so apropos to today's climate and what's happening. Can you speak a little bit about that 16-year journey?
Yeah. So we're at my firm, we like to do what we call low-cost experiments. We like to take a couple $1,000s here, a couple $1,000s there. Can we run a marketing campaign? Right now, we're working with Raphi on a Facebook marketing campaign for the first time, and we know that no other advisors are doing that in New York City right now. So we have an opportunity to get ahead of the curve. We also have a lot of content based on my writing. Well, we've hired an outside firm to give us content based on what they have found to be successful. And we're trying it as an experiment. And I'm investing, maybe $1,000 a month to see if it can bring us new clients or different clients or not. If it doesn't work, it's a low-cost experiment. I'm out a couple $1,000s. If it does work, one new relationship is worth $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a year to me. It pays for the whole thing.
Right. So that's the thing I loved about that message specifically, because financial planning is not an overnight type of business. You're not selling a product and you're not selling a bicycle or a pen or anything. You're selling a lifetime. You're selling a relationship.
Yes.
Or I can say that you're planning a life, and life is a journey. It's not an overnight. So what would you have to say? Give us some tips for the people that are watching and listening. Should they be doing anything right now should they be doing anything, changing anything?
Okay, so we're talking about their businesses or their finances? Where are we going here?
Your expertise is their finances.
Their finances? It's very hard for me to give super generic advice, but I guess the best way of looking at your money is divided into 3 pots. The first pot is the money I need in the next year for my mortgage, for a house closing, for the kids' tuition. And there's money I need for the next 1 to 5 years for a big renovation coming up or a big trip I'm planning. And then there's money I need for 5 years out. And that could be for my retirement or some other big financial need. The 5-year money can safely be in the stock market right now. We just took a 35% hit. We gained back 10% of it last week. We're still down 25% from the February 19th high. On average, we have a big wipeout in US stocks every 10 years. This one, 2008, 2009, 2000, 2002, 1987, 1998, every 10 years. And on average, it takes 3 years to regain to a new high and then move up from there. So if you have what I call 5-year money invested in stocks already, leave it there. If you have 5-year money that's not invested in stocks, yeah, put a third of it into the market now, a third of it in June, a third of it in September. As horrible as this pandemic is, and let's not mince words, 200,000 Americans are going to die, in the next 6 to 12 months.
Terrible.
Still
So
is a sobering statistic.
Right.
But on the far side of it is an economy that recovers. People will need to rebuild. They'll spend money that pumps revenues, that pumps earnings, that pumps the stock market.
So speaking of the advice that you give, I notice on your website, which everyone should click onto, right up here, you've got free investment guides. What is that? Is that free? Are free investment guides really free?
Yep, we have about 35 different guides, and it starts at one end. This is your financial life for someone who just graduated from college, and it ends with how to plan for your retirement, and annuities and exchange traded funds, everything in between. One of my favorites is the glide path to retirement, which is very appropriate for someone who's 15 years out from retirement and needs to get onto the glide path to retirement for a smooth landing, because you only get one chance landing the plane. Yeah, just go there, click on the button. Obviously, there will be a spot to add your name and email address. We'll put you on our free distribution. If you don't like it, unsubscribe.
Sounds good. So Marty, just kicking it back to you. Any final questions for David before we end off?
David, so I mean, you have no crystal ball, obviously, but I think that if you were to take a look, kind of generally based on your experience, you mentioned that these kinds of cycles have happened in the past. So how would you advise people to work not so much on the finances but their business? What kind of advice would you provide in the business sense?
Yeah, so right now there are 3 kinds of businesses. There are businesses like Amazon that are adding employees as fast as they can and working double shifts, right? Everyone's ordering stuff from home. And then there's businesses like mine that are service businesses. And yeah, we took a revenue hit, but we still have revenue coming in. We're still fully employed with our team, working very hard to keep it that way. And then there are businesses like restaurants and hotels that are, and airlines that are absolutely dead in the water. So with different situations comes different needs. For the business, for any business, even if you're dead in the water right now, I recommend that you go to the SBA website. I'm going to give the URL in a second, so grab a pen to write it down, and immediately apply for an SBA loan. And the gist of that loan is that you fill it out, you should be able to get a check. This is for companies of less than 500 employees. You should be able to get a check of $10,000 in 3 days into your business checking account. We'll see if that happens. I applied today. I will know in 3 days if it works or not, number one. And then number two, I can apply for a bigger loan that's worth 2.5 times my payroll. And if I spend that money to support my employees and don't cut anybody off my payroll, which is my intent anyway, a good portion of that loan gets converted into a grant. So let's say that you're in my position, use that money to keep my payroll up, keep my people working, focus on building the business. That's one solution. Let's say that you run a business like a spa, right? And you've had to close all your spas and lay off all your people. Well, still apply for that loan. And then when 3 months have gone by or 6 months have gone by, use that loan at least as working capital to get your spas reopened, and then you'll pay it off over 10 years at 4% rate of interest. That's a pretty good deal. So the website to get that to is part of the SBA website, and it's specifically COVID, COVID 19 relief.sba.gov. Go ahead and fill out that application today.
And David, just in conclusion, we only have a few minutes left. Is there anything else that your clients have been asking you that would be helpful to the audience that's listening or watching today?
Mostly they just want to know that they're going to be okay. And I tell them the number one thing you can do to be okay is stay out of the hospital. That's it. That's the most important thing right now.
All right. And please tell everyone your website and how can people get in touch with you?
Yep. So I'm David Edwards, and I'm the president of Heron Wealth. Heron is spelled Heron, and our website is heronwealth.com. My email address is davidedwards@heronwealth.com, and my office line is 347-580-5288, and that rolls automatically to my cell phone, 917-705-3893.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being a guest. Marty, what do you have going on with, I mean, do you have any events that are scheduled, online events that you'd like to share?
So business development, BizDev Leaders, that's our group. We are going to be having a virtual meetup during the week of April 20th. Details to come. We had always done this live, obviously in person, at our offices at WeWork at 42nd and 3rd. That's not an option, so we'll be doing this virtually, and that we'll be able to continue the conversation about business going forward.
That sounds great. So thank you again. I'm Raphi Salem on behalf of Marty, Katz, and I, David Edwards, president of Heron Wealth. Thank you very much for joining us. And we look forward to hearing from you, talking to you. Please send us comments, emails, smoke signals, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.